Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Astrology and Beyond. I am Tatiana, also broadcasting for ANN Archetypal News Network. Today, I will be speaking about the end of March and particularly the Equinox portal that's happening on March 20th. This is where the astrological new year actually begins with the sun entering Aries, and it's as though the energy kind of resets or reboots as the new astrological year begins. And it's not just any ordinary astrological year. I think 2026 is by far one of the most pivotal years in our, let's say, recent history because of how much has been crumbling, how much has been shifting, how many endings have been just occurring. It's like the tower moments have been so big for so many, and simultaneously we have this other world literally emerging as a world dissolves. And this is why at this time it's very important to keep our nervous system in check, to keep our nervous system really, really calm, because it could seem as though the world is literally going crazy, more insane than ever, and at the same time there's all these amazing openings, possible, the possibilities opening. And what can happen is a system overload. So as I always say, make sure to stay grounded. Breathe when you need to, because this is a time for breathing and really being very present, especially during this time, as there's still a lot of Pisces energy present, and we'll see how our different archetypes are just playing together very strongly, these two energies of Pisces and Aries, with so many planets interacting just there. That's the intensity of the astrology. Otherwise, I would say, again, it's a very merciful astrology, despite the possibility of all completely going to the shadow. So this is why today we're going to talk a lot about the shadow of the energies and the potential of these energies, because we are the ones choosing our reality after all. So let's get into it. But before getting into it, I'm still having a nice, amazing sale for readings. It's important at this time to know who we are, know thyself, and then build meaningful relationships and know the other so we can build a better world. So I'm still over the month of March offering the birth chart at 30% off this month until the end of the month. So take advantage of this, because I feel if you can know yourself better, you know how to enter the new energies much more fully. And also I have the relationship reading. This is awesome because this is where, if you know yourself and you know somebody else and you can create meaningful connections, then you can also troubleshoot any potential discords, challenges in a relationship. And obviously that also leads to groups. I have my group dynamics reading also 50% off, so make sure to check those out on my website tatianahassan.com under Astrology and Beyond. So that being said, now we can go back to our video. And the reason why I'm talking about conflict in self, and this is a reflection I had that has everything to do with what's going on in the world. So here it is. I was watching this video by Johnny Harris about the Middle East, and he was explaining a whole history of the Middle East. And then as I was watching the video and seeing how complicated human relationships have been, especially war and whatnot, and how these conflicting interests end up always being about who has the power and who has something to gain from something, and rarely ever about the people, about the well-being. And that's the source of war. It could be land, it could be oil, it could be whatever, it just doesn't matter, or just pure power. And as I was watching this video, I felt into myself, wow, no wonder these unending cycles of war. And guess what? In this new era where Neptune and Saturn are together, and we're seeing again these warring, like war seems to be again in the forefront as something very scary. And then my reflection always comes back to, how am I the creator of a reality and part of a collective of every single human in the planet who is a consciousness, who has a responsibility in this reality, creating this war. And I go back to somehow the jinkies as well. And I have in my life's purpose jinky number 6, which is conflict, diplomacy, and peace. So I started again reflecting upon this. Again, I've been reflecting a lot about this. And if you're here listening to this, maybe this can spark something in you as well. If I can resolve the conflict within my own being, and what is the conflict within our own being? We could say, what is a conflict inside? A conflict within our own being is first when we do not love parts of ourselves, when we reject ourselves. It could be anything. It's the inner critic that speaks and says, oh, you're not good enough, or your body is bad, or all this negative self talk that we might have at any point in time. And so, first of all, how do we enter in conflict within ourselves? And secondly, how do we project that conflict outwardly with others? And then from that projection, how do we actually take responsibility for that? For the little example, I had a little something happened in my classroom. I teach some kids, and there was this conflict apparently around somebody said something that triggered someone else, and that created a cascade of events, boom boom boom, of everybody saying mean things to each other, and then somebody got hurt out of that, like in rough play. And bottom line, I was seeing this all in front of me, all this conflict out of one word that got triggered, and these kids going in that spiral. And I told the kids at some point, you see, this, if we can solve this in ourselves first, and then with each other, with love and compassion and care for what we're saying and our actions, and even how we're reacting, this is like above, so, as above, so below. If we can solve this in this little container, we're actually resolving war in the Middle East. I know that sounds crazy to think that way, but when we think about how we create reality, and as individuals, how we actually actualize it, first, if I love myself and I'm not treating myself like horribly, that's the first sign that I can be at peace within my own being. And what are certain illnesses if not just signs of the body saying, hello, pay attention, give me some love? Even cancer, and we could go all the way into woo-woo land, or into, but my belief, and again, you can take this or leave it, is that anything that's inside of us, inside our body, is asking us. We are a system. In the same, our system mirrors the solar system. This is why astrology, that system so big, all those archetypes, all those planets, they're not out there. They are mirrored inside of us, in our own system. And this is why whatever we change inside changes the macrocosm, and changes also our projected reality. Hence, what I can work inside my own being can resolve a war conflict somewhere. And you would say, like, yeah, right. Yeah, obviously, I'm only one person. But one person can influence another person, like me in the classroom with the girls, just telling them how to navigate that. And then that's how we all help each other. So this is really relevant. And this is why I'm bringing, again, do you know yourself? Do you know what conflicts you have within? And that's my what I can help you with my personal birth chart readings. And then how do we solve conflict with each other? That's the next level. This is why I'm kind of bringing this again as something important if you would like to explore it. But anyway, that's really part of this whole astrological transits. Is, wow, there's a lot of this potential for really, really heavy Aries energy. And we have also the potential of completely turning that around into excitement, into newness, into new possibilities, new horizons. So what's it going to be? So let's see the chart so that we can actually look at this more. I think this is working. Okay, wait. Share. Am I sharing this? Hold on, just want to make sure. Okay, now it's working. Okay, so March, the equinox, and we have also a new moon happening, which is also it's a seeding point in. So let's look at this. It's a seeding point. So let's look at March 18th, which is like Wednesday. Today is Monday, so this is just Wednesday, but this leads up to my main topic that I'm going to talk about, which is the equinox portal. And this is why at this time it's really important to pay attention to these energies that we're almost being swayed and swept by, is the Piscean energy and all these planets and the concentrations of planets in these two energies. So we have Mercury still retrograding, conjuncting the North Node. And we'll talk about Mercury retrograde a little bit more. And it is also conjunct Mars. So Mercury, Mars, and North Node are kind of one unit at this time. Then we have the new moon in Pisces. And we have, so this is this big energetic pull in Pisces. And this, I would say, is what's really bringing us into a future that's more aligned with soul, especially because Jupiter is making a nice trine to Mars here and the North Node. So this is the wave we want to ride, I would say. That has its whole plethora of implications. Now, to see what's going on here, we have in Aries, Saturn, Neptune, we have Venus, and we have Chiron. So these, again, energetic, very, very deep energetic energies of newness, of new values, of new relationships, of things that are forming. And this is squared by Jupiter, and we will explore this square of Jupiter to Venus, because this is where we really need to align with our values. Otherwise, we can be overshooting marks in unnecessary ways. So let's look at our archetypes a little bit. I like to get a little bit visual since we're during this Mercury retrograde period in Pisces. I think visual language is clearly speaking more than actual words. I find it quite confusing with my words at this time, to be able to be super articulate. But I have Jupiter giving me some boost of how I can communicate. So this visual map here, this is our Pisces energy, why I just showed you in the chart. So the Pisces field, as we all know, or we don't know if you're new here, welcome. The Pisces field wants us to be in contact with all that is. It's the field of dissolution, is where everything ends and goes back to the source, is where everything dissolves. This is where we find the most, we can find all the dreams. You see, this is like the dream, the dreamer, the archetypal great mother dreaming all that is. And where the magic is almost at the tips of our hands, where we can literally access the dream field, where we can literally touch. And during this new moon that is seeding this new dreams, literally it's new dreams for expression of soul. So let's explore. If the sun, and I decided to put all my planetary archetypes as female and male, so this is a choice I make, because everything is in balance in masculine and feminine form. Even though we talk about the sun as more of a masculine energy, I wanted to kind of portray my archetypes in both, so we're not leaving anything out. And that's just a choice, let's say. I'll think later why that is, but I feel there's something about including both the feminine and masculine in everything and not excluding it. So that's part of my choices. So the sun, you see, the sun here, this is the essence. The sun is literally the essential self, is what we shine, is the soul connection. And all of this is in Pisces. So we're drawing from essence and from the source of dreams and all that is. Now the moon is where we feel our emotions, where we feel contained. The actual archetype of moon is about containment, it's about safety, it's about emotions, it's about how we navigate the emotional field. So obviously in this new moon, where we have the sun and the moon, we have again another invitation from the soul to connect to what it deems emotionally safe. And these emotions, where are they? They are held in a much vaster field. So what happens when we connect to all that is? We can be overwhelmed by emotions, because this is the collective field that dissolves everything. What could be happening here? Maybe grief, maybe endings, maybe goodbyes. It's like everything's dissolving. Let it dissolve, because that is the North Node. The North Node is also is trusting that this dissolution is part of a much larger process. So those things that we're attached to, and I said in the last video, if you didn't watch it, we're still attaching to that branch while the river is carrying us. Let the river carry you, and have compassion and love. This is the time to actually release and be grateful for what we are releasing, because when we're able to do that, then it's much easier to come into a place of acceptance that's not at a high cost. It's a place of understanding that there's a divine order here, kind of orchestrating that in a much bigger fashion than we could even imagine. Now, at the same time, we have Mercury and Mars in a dynamic talking. So again, all of these archetypes are in the sign of Pisces. So Mercury is retrograde still. So we could think Mercury, that's all about the mind, communication. You see, this is like ease of communication, it's talking, is sharing, is ideas, is the mind, is the mental field. When it's in retrograde, the mental field is not expressed as outward communication necessarily, or outward networking, or outward anything. It really wants you to focus inside and review what your mental patterns have been. What do you think of? How do you create reality from your beliefs, from your ideas? And this is where ideas can actually come from. Where? From this field of Pisces. The Piscean field can be feeding into Neptune, into the mercurial mind. It can be feeding ideas, it can be feeding images. All these images have been fed to me during this Pisces transit, right? And well, I do have the thing that my Virgo Mercury at 15 degrees is right now in an exact sextile to Jupiter, and I'm kind of being able during this times, I don't even think I'm thinking what I'm saying. I'm just allowing the words to literally come through to you, because everything I'm saying, I feel it's coming from somewhere else. I don't even have time to filter it. It's like a direct channeling. This is how I experience it anyways. So this mercurial field might be saying, what are we reviewing? What are we really having to say goodbye to? And so that we can really move into the next layer of self, fully completed. This morning, for the little story, I had something happen. Again, lots of emotions came through, a memory of the past. For me, I have this Pisces stellium in the fourth house. So this is where you want to look at your own birth chart and see where is the Pisces house, because this is where you're having these closures. This is where you're having these reviews. So it's very important to look at that. Me, it's around the home, and I am moving homes, and I'm having to grieve my previous home, and I know it's needed, even though there's a lot of pain and grief there. And not only that, I had this morning this connection to these memories when I was a child, and where I had so much fear around being bullied and being not safe, and I wanted this big teddy bear that I really wanted it. And my mom, I got good grades, so my mom got this big teddy bear. And today I was thinking, oh my God, that little self, that my 9-year-old self, or 8-year-old self, was wanting a big teddy bear. It was a white bear. It reminded me of this. A big teddy bear, like a big mother. A big mother teddy bear. Gigantic. As though something in my own inner child archetype knew a big teddy bear represents protection, represents nurturing, where I was being bullied by kids at school. And then I started connecting my current experiences as a teacher and with children to these past archetypes of my own being. And suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, obviously everything's connected in the field of Pisces. So as I was having this reflection, these big emotions came up, this big release came up, and that was it. I breathed through it. I was held by my beloved, and I was able to release who knows what stuck energy from that child. So you see, I'm giving you this story as my own experience just to illustrate how energy moves, and when we're conscious we can catch it, we don't elude it. So this is why during this period, if dreams occur, pay attention to your dreams. If you have these insights or bursts of emotions that are triggered by little things, don't ignore that little thing, because that little thing might be speaking volumes about how you want to evolve. So this is very important. Now, this dialogue between Mars and Mercury, because they're conjunct, Mars in its best archetypal expression is about direction, it's about will, it's about initiation, it's the warrior, it's the one that's fearless. You see these archetypal characters that I kind of came up with are pointing towards a destiny, and they're leading. They're not, you feel that there's this assured energy that just goes forward and plows ahead and is fearless. This is the best Mars energy we can have. So Mars and Mercury together, it's about having your ideas and what your everything that's in your mind can be now actually actualized in service of something bigger, because Mars will fight for something bigger, will fight for the little people, will fight for the ones that are not protected. But it's also addressing, like I say, an inner child. If you have been bullied in your life, for instance, how have you allowed that, right? So this Mars can stand for that part of self that felt small and unprotected. And this is why I'm saying all these archetypes can show up in so many ways in your life. This is why it's important to know in your birth chart where the house of the Pisces is, because this is the area of life where you might be reviewing, where you might be taking new initiative. New dreams are forming as old dreams are dissolving with this energy as we form the new. And this new moon is a seeding point. This is why I talk about the seeding points of new energies that are aligned with the soul. This is essentially the soul coming together again, feminine, masculine archetypes of expression and safety into this realm. So how do we root ourselves into a more grounded or a more trusting spirituality and a sense of belonging to a collective? That is, and how we, as part of this soup of all that is, can dream the collective dream as individuals. And this is where the Mars and Mercury can come in at the highest expression. Now, what can go like sideways is when these energies go into their shadow in a conjunction, like we see here, in a conjunction and this big stellium has the potential to either go in the highest expression or it can go in the lowest expression. So then what happens in the lowest expression? Suddenly we can drown in the Piscean field of despair, of not knowing even where to go. Mars, the one that leads and goes somewhere, can feel confused with a direction that's not clear, so lack of direction, confusion. Mercury, the mind, thoughts that you can't see clear, you don't even know what the way ahead is, and that can create a lot of anxiety, like literally drowning. So this anxiety can be in the field. So the best way to deal with this potential anxiety, and also not to fall into certain Piscean themes of trying to rescue everybody, because that's part of its archetype. The victim is to kind of go into victimhood and into rescue and into the rescuer savior mode, and at this time everybody needs to be in their own being, doing their own work. That's the best course of action. And yes, of course we can help others and we can be releasing things with a lot of love and care, but first and foremost, for who? For ourselves, because that's where everything begins. Otherwise, we can fall into victimhood, we could fall into savior mode, we can fall into despair, into confusion. And confusion won't be really solved until Mercury moves direct, and that will only be after the 20th. And then when Mercury clears its shadow, we'll be fully seeing the new road. Right now, there's no road, there's just this muck. But during this muck, well, take advantage of the muck, not to be despaired in it, but to be fully surrendered in it. That's the thing. So the other part of it is the Aries energy that we talked about. So Aries, this is what's being dissolved and what's being birthed. This is the Aries energy of the initiation into the new beginnings, into the dawn. Is the one that goes fearless. Also, like, it's ruled by Mars, so obviously that Mars in Pisces has a lot to do with this energy that's being at the same time collectively expressed. So this is the explorer, the adventurer that just goes first and goes solo. And this is why the Aries energy wants us to be really connected to our own essence first before connecting to everything, I would say. And who is in Aries at this time? We said, well, Saturn and Neptune. We have been seeing this pair a lot. I've talked about these two a lot. So obviously our Saturn, which is our structure, the one that builds things, you see, it builds these structures to last in time. I put this little hourglasses here. I don't know if this is actually zooming in. I hope so. I'm still trying to figure out how Zoom works with this, but you see, this is the structure of time. This is the father and the mother that want things to be well done. This is Saturn's role, is to test boundaries, to test limits, to put some certain sense of creation in the real world, to put boundaries in the realistic way. This is why Saturn's function is to give us structure. It's all about the structure. It's not the bad guy that we think Saturn is. It's the structure. And then Neptune associated with Pisces, right, is the one that really trusts the ethereal self, that trusts the dreamer, that trusts that there's a bigger dream, is the one that actually has no boundary. It doesn't really know where this one ends and that begins, or this, where the water ends or it begins. Is this world that has almost no way of being structured. So when these two come together, we've talked about this. This is about new structures in the spirit, new structures for our lives. New structures rooted in a much higher understanding of a cosmic order. And Aries, how do you put these two archetypes here? Well, we are creating a new sense of spiritual selfhood, or literally new structures of being, because the Neptune is about the being, new structures of being, and the sun. So this is why in this new moon, this is like, oh my gosh, our new structures of being cannot be rooted in old patterns. Now, what else is happening in Aries is we have Venus. And Venus is all about value, beauty, relationship, heart, pleasure. That's all the Venusian themes, right? That's why I have these lovers here. The music, the beauty, the connection, the heart, the love, relationship, the value. All of the Venusian themes. And then we have still Chiron in Aries, the wounded healer. Here is our Chiron. What happened? Oh no. Uh-oh. I don't know what happened. Oh, I'm gonna have to stop the share because I kind of lost my, oops, that's me. Okay, here it is. Now, here it is. So, Chiron, my wounded healer. And this is where Chiron can still be having an influence into these all new beginning things, as are we still healing the masculine field of, I can do this, I can go for it. Let's go back to remembering the horrors of wars and why so many heroes might want to go, no, thank you, been there, done that, I don't want to do that. Going for what I want, going for something, going for what I want is dangerous. Maybe there is still memories of fighting for something and getting completely obliterated. And that's part of this war archetype as well, is that the wounded warrior in this case, because this is Chiron in Aries, is the wounded warrior, the one that had all the impetus to go for something and died or got hurt. And this is where the soul says, oh, I don't know if I can still do this. But the greatest gift of Chiron is knowing that when we have the courage to look into the wound and say, this is not really real. This is all in my mind. This is all in an archetypal mind that creates ideas and beliefs. What if there is a better way? What if all of these new beginnings, these new horizons that are opening, can actually be actualized if I just relax into knowing that I am held through this field of the all-knowing, of the all that is, and Neptune so strongly there. So that will be that. Now, the issue with this Venus, now, this is where the caution comes. Ta-da! I'm going to get my other archetypes up. I'm having fun with the archetypes. Please let me know in the comments if you're liking the archetypes and how that helps you see maybe better astrological words, because astrology can be very wordy and you can get very lost in words. I love images because they help me put two and two together. So please let me know in the comments if you're liking my archetypes and any comments you have about them. So what happens when we have this? Because during this particular lunation and equinox portal, we're going to have Jupiter squaring Venus. And for this matter, this is where we gotta be maybe aware that Venus, as much as is beauty, love, we saw our Venus in its highest expression, and this is maybe Venus more in its shadow, and also Jupiter in its highest expression, and then Jupiter in its shadow. Okay, so Jupiter expands. What does expands? Everything it touches. It makes it bigger, brighter, more excessive. It's about excess, and Venus is about pleasure, beauty, love, relationships. So this is when we have Venus in Aries, initiation. So maybe things we think we love, we think we value, we want to go for, maybe a new relationship, a new something, and this might be happening in the house of Aries in your chart. So look at the area in your chart that has Aries, because this is where most likely your values, including money, relationships, values, are going to be maybe amplified, maybe to a degree of excess. And this is where we want to avoid excess, because what can happen, this is where vanity can show up, excess of vanity, excess of maybe luxury that we're not measuring carefully, and maybe our values are being questioned. Like, is this really what you value? And that's why sometimes these archetypes want us to see the excess so we can reassess if this is exactly the direction we want to go. And the excess also with Jupiter can be literally, Jupiter and Venus is an excess of well, it could be also exacerbating emotions, because Jupiter is in Cancer, right? So our Cancerian field here is kind of the archetype again of memory, safety, home, homeland. So anything having to do with the home, the roots, homeland, and all of that is the terrain of Cancer, emotions and safety and feeling cared for. So emotions can be greatly amplified, the waters of emotions. So what gets like exacerbated with Jupiter is the emotional fields, how we feel safe at home, who are the people around us. There can be a lot of emotion with the people around us, with our families. And then let's assess if there's newness, because Venus wants it now, fast. This is going fast. So maybe it's a new lover, new relationships, new homes, new this, new that, new jobs. Anything that's showing up in the Aries field as new, make sure you're not overshooting the mark or going into unnecessary excess, because this is where we might then find Saturn later, because and not really assess sustainability. So whatever you're experiencing, make sure at this time to go moderate. Even if it feels too good to be true, if it feels like expansive and great, your credit card's already in your hand and you're ready to purchase that thing that you don't really want, refrain. Just say, I'm just going to wait while this transit passes. Just wait a little bit, assess if what I have in front of me is really matching my soul values. If this new thing that's so shiny and great is really in alignment with what gives me true safety. So that could be one way of looking at it, right? Obviously, the Venus Jupiter is not all bad in a square. It just means that the exacerbation can be excessive. But what could it be great for? It could be great for actually meeting people, because Jupiter will expand the social capacities. What about money? So again, this is where you can spend a lot of money. So if you're going to spend money, then spend it in something that is really truly valuable for you, not in some bogus shiny thing. This is really important at this time. Same with investments and things like that. If you see something too good to be true, I think hold off, because Jupiter might expand something right now and then completely take it away if it was not aligned with your soul values. So just measure where you're putting that energy. Now, the other portion of this is a wonderful aspect, which is the Mars-Jupiter. So we do have Mars and Jupiter in a trine. So guess what? This is the wave we actually want to ride. So we talked about Mars, our warrior, our pioneer in Pisces, kind of not knowing really exactly where it's going, but it has a higher ideal because it trusts the intuitive self. And Jupiter trining Mars gives us enormous capacity for action, driven by a certain level of sensing the field, emotions, and trust. So any action at this time that is done through an intuitive lens, the intuitive lens of the Piscean field, less the mental field and more the intuitive field. That's why this is where you can write your dreams down. You can have a flash of inspiration, write it down. Suddenly you see a vision, write it down, because those are going to be more real than everything that your mind is going to try to concoct, or maybe the glossy thing that looks so great on the outside and you're going to go for things that you're being sold. No, the only thing that you can be sold right now is your own self, the intuition, and the sensing of the spaces you're in. If something feels good, go for it. If it doesn't feel good, if it doesn't feel right, just don't. You see, Jupiter at its best is this expansive, wonderful energy that wants connection and wants higher truth and wants to align with truth. That's why it brings so much bounty. This is why Jupiter here has the bounty, not the excess. It just has the bounty, the abundance, the connection. It's the philosopher, is the one that says, whatever I believe, because Jupiter ties to our beliefs, is what I can create. And at this time is about sensing your own body field and sensing where you truly feel right. You'll have a little resonance field going, yes, no. So you see, the Venus-Jupiter can throw you off, but if you're really in tune with yourself, you're not going to let that or other people's values or things be put on you. You can really be with yourself, be in your own intuitive self, and let yourself guide yourself through this intuitive process. And then this guidance will take you to the highest expression of Mars, which is compassion. Mars in Pisces. And Jupiter is the expansion of action through compassion, through love, through care. This is a good time for action, especially once Mercury goes direct and you're thinking of moving forward. This is it. This is also where we have compassion for ourselves and others, and forgiveness. A lot of forgiveness is in the field. If you can ride this wave and be mindful of the excesses, boy, is the next chapter going to be a trampoline for you. So let's look at what happens at the equinox window, which is kind of as what we're seeing all this happening. This is 18th, 19th, this is the new moon. So this is why I said the seeding points of this new self based on a truer expression of self. And then on March 20th, we have the sun entering Aries, and then things are gonna start radically changing. Because if we do this week up leading up to Friday really consciously, with our releases, with our forgiveness, with our inner selves direction, with the intuitive feelings, even though we might not know all the answers and see clearly, when the sun moves in Aries March 20th, I'm gonna tell you this, and everything, like, there's boom, 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 and it meets Saturn and Neptune head on. So this is Saturn and Neptune going, oh my gosh, they're in the same room together with the sun. So the essence, the sun, the essence, the self, it's meeting a new path finally. Maybe not yet quite clear, because Mercury is still retrograde in Pisces, but at least there's something really sparking life essence and life force. And this has all to do with a new sense of direction aligned with soul. And I'll say it a million times: direction aligned with soul. If we can align our direction in life with soul, soul will take care of all the details. So as things get removed and washed by the river, guess what? The new shore is just there. So don't despair, because this is a time where we could despair. We could really despair, because we can see that we have no control over much anything other than these new things that are building themselves as things are crumbling. So how do we build and crumble at the same time? It's very hard. But this is the wisdom of knowing astrology. This is why we do this. This is why I do this, to tell you, you're all good. We're all in good hands up there. Just keep aligning with your intuition and your deepest sense of knowing that something higher than us has the reins right now. And anything new will be much clearer a little bit later. So we just need to hold off a little bit while this transit passes. Now, this is where we have also a wonderful other thing. So at the end of March, so towards the equinox window, we're riding this new moon energy into the equinox portal, and that's when we move through this portal. And leading up to there, allow your soul to express anything it wants to express, to dream anything it wants to dream. Come the end of March, we're already having the sun is going to be contacting Neptune, and Saturn is going to have its little test of autonomy over self-direction. Venus is moving into Taurus, so now Venus is going to be really happy. This is where we can start grounding a little bit more into our true value and essence. But Venus is also going to begin its encounter with Pluto in a square. So this is where we might, again, values that we have cemented, we can come head on with conflict with others. Conflict, maybe loss of maybe money, or even just relationships being very tense and difficult, because we have to see what's ugly in our relationships in order to be able to make better choices. And so it's interesting, because Venus is trying to ground something as it comes into its own domicile or sign, which is like, oh, Taurus, this is the domain of Venus. It can finally relax. But we might find that there's maybe some relationship dynamics that haven't been fully addressed, and that can come as with power struggles. So that's that. Now, the other good thing, again, riding good waves, is we're riding the wave of Jupiter and Mercury in Pisces. This is where we will totally amplify the capacity to dream. But guess what? Mercury now is direct. So now this is where we can actually bring things really into form and allow all those dreams to really concretize now. And now we can speak about it, share what it is. Now the field of Jupiter, which is this expansive, wonderful field that wants bounty and abundance, it makes the field of Mercury really expansive. So again, the mind can get very expanded into Pisces. Big dreams can now start being shared, because it's no longer retrograde. Now we can start talking about it, start sharing with others what we see, and start thinking about what we believe to be true. Again, this is the field of big confidence in talking, in expressing, in sharing with others your ideas, and it will get enormous support. Also, who are you aligning with and who you're talking to? This is where the field begins to create also these alliances by unifying systems of belief, or by unifying people that believe, yeah, again, believe same things. So you're starting to talk the same language. Basically, you see this and this together is we speak the same language, and in so doing we can create great connections, right? So this is a time to um to take advantage of that, right? So take advantage of the connections, take advantage of your ideas, take advantage of everything you can share. This is a time for confident speech, you know. Now, for all of you out there, obviously these energies are for everybody, but who's going to feel this in maybe in the it could be either way. So people with placements in the cardinal signs and the mutable signs. I think basically Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius people, you're going to be feeling this Piscean energy really strongly. So the releases, the grief, the the need to trust, and it can be felt difficult, especially I would say for Virgos. This is hard because Virgo needs to know everything and have everything under control and know how things are gonna go. You don't know how it's gonna go. Just trust that order will come first from this sense of chaos that is not chaotic at all. It has an intelligence of its own. So Virgos, just be patient with this process of the unknown. And for Geminis and Sagittarius people, this might feel also like an adjustment, you know, big adjustment from the way you also perceive reality. For all these signs, there could be this. Now, for Pisces people, again, it could go either way. I explained in a conjunction, you can have the despair and the yeah the higher the despair, or the higher fields of connectedness. So it goes either way. Something magnificent just carries you through because you trust, because you're a Pisces, so you know that trusting the divine and divine timing is your nature. But it could also feel like a little bit confusing for everybody. Now, who is gonna get the energy of Aries a little bit more strongly? So again, this new energies that can come into conflict with certain things, especially with the Venus that it's at the end of March in this aspect with Jupiter, with overextending, maybe new things. So if you're an Aries, a Capricorn, a Cancer, or a Libra, you're gonna feel these energies of the new really strongly, but also might be difficult for you to adjust to these new things. And so beware. I say when if anybody has, especially if you have anything around the 15 degree of the cardinal signs, I would say this Jupiter Venus thing is for you. And the so just make sure not to make very big leaps at this time when it comes to relationships, to money, or to overextending what you cannot really sustain or what is not aligned with your true value. So just watch it, that's all, because that's what happens when we have these aspects in tension. That's what it is. So this might speak to you, to some more than to others, but in general, the sky is all our sky. So that being said, thank you for being here today. I hope you ride this new moon and the equinox energy and the end of March as this really new beginning that's really gonna kick off with that motorcycle like at 100 miles an hour and just gonna go and go, and it's gonna keep speeding up. So that's the other thing. These energies will only keep speeding up as of March 20th. Don't expect to go back to what can't go back, because once the Pisces energy clears, there's no going back. This is why take advantage of these Pisces closings with love, with compassion, with care, with forgiveness. Just let it go, let it go, let it go, and then move on. with the highest enthusiasm that you possibly can, because the Aries energy gives us that capacity to be enthusiastic, like a new baby, a newborn, going like, what's this, what's that? Go back into that newness and you'll see that life will not seem so hard and difficult or conflictive. Beware of conflict, because of course the Aries energy can be charged with yang, with too much bravado. So let's calm the bravado down, and then we can move forward much more efficiently, building one little step at a time. Don't jump the mark, don't overdo it. One step at a time. That's Saturn saying, not so fast. And we'll be all good. We'll be all golden. So thank you very much for being here. Please feel free to like, subscribe, tap the bell, and all those great things so that the algorithm can find this. And if you find this useful, please share it with other people. If you like my archetypes and the way I'm explaining, leave me comments. I would love to hear from you what could serve you better. And don't forget to check my offerings. My offerings of birth chart discounted at 30%. The relationship readings at 50%, and the group dynamic readings at 50%. If you want to check that out, please do. Or if you know someone that might be interested, please share the information. It's all on my website. I love you very much, and see you in the next video.